So Giuseppe's here. Giuseppe, I'll fill you in and we'll fill everyone else in at the same time. One of the things we do with the new live show is you don't have to be on camera. You're not you're not meant to participate. You're meant to hang out, watch. You're meant to introduce yourself in the chat and have conversations there, like while this thing is going on. So we're trying a different format. Not everyone needs to show their face on screen. If they'd like to, it's a nice thing.
I'm happy to show mine.
Oh, it's a good face. It's a good face. Jonathan Porter. Jonathan Porter,
Yeah,
you're doing a little something amazing here. Can you share with everyone what you've managed to team up with another tour operator now for? Is this 4 years, 5 years in a row?
yeah. I think we're going into our fourth now. So yeah, and I mean it's what an idea, right? Like for everybody that's on here, I'm Jonathan Porter. I founded the Chicago Pizza Tour in 2010. Realistically, as we all probably know, I was working on it at least a year and a half prior to that, and we for however many years 10 years or so we ran our pizza tours exclusively. We'd always gotten requests to do other types of food, and I'm like, yeah, you know what, I know where a good Italian beef is, a good hot dog, but I'm your pizza guy. You know what, go see other people for that. But the thought of actually collaborating with another operator to do a tour in which we both bring something to the table and then both sort of share our own expertise about those topics was something that it really intrigued me. And honestly, Joe, it was UpLevel that sort of pushed us to do this. These ideas may be out there. You may think, oh, that might be cool or something like that, but it was really sort of UpLevel and you guys that sort of pushed us off the ledge and said, well, yeah, go ahead and do it. And for us, we consider ourselves the brand name when it comes to pizza. We've teamed up with American Ghost Walks now for a few years, and we do a co-branded, basically a spooky pizza tour. We bring the best of Chicago's ghost world in, and the best of Chicago's pizza world in, and it makes for a unique experience. And I don't feel like I'm too far out of bounds with saying, like, nobody else on the planet is offering what we're offering these guests for just a few weeks in October. It is something that has never been done, other than by ourselves for the last 4 years, and it's so cool. I mean, I don't even like, this isn't me just saying this. I truly enjoy guiding those ones because I feel like I'm taking the tour as well. Like, sure, I'll work about the pizzas and make sure everything's, but like, as soon as I turn it over, I'm like a little kid on a tour, learning all this cool stuff too. And especially last year, we had such a blast last year.
Tell me, tell me about that turning it over because I want to know a little bit. I want to share with everyone some of the hurdles in getting this set up. What were some of the challenges we faced? How did you overcome? Who's going to guide the tour? Some of that stuff.
Right. I mean, so yeah, that's it. Since it's never really been done, combining these two tours that have drastically different topics, we weren't even sure how the dynamic was going to be. So I would say that first year was really sort of a test for us both. But the hurdles for me were like, actually taking that leap and being like, is this a brand that I want to associate my brand with as well? Luckily for us, I had known them. They're in the town. I keep an eye on other tours in the same town and everything. But UpLevel had already vetted them. It was like, hey, no, they're doing really good work here too. So it was kind of put things at ease for me to go ahead and do that. Like the next hurdles would be something like along the lines of figuring out the routes that we wanted to do. As you know, we've changed the route every single year. We give people a reason to come back and keep doing this tour over and over again because there's different murders, and there's different pizza slices to have. So basically coming up with a route, figuring out, what we're going to talk about along the way, how this pizzeria is going to play with this pizzeria, and what stories we can do based off of the locations that we're looking at. So those are some of the hurdles there too. At this point, like you said, we've been doing it 4 years. So Tony, who does the writing over there, for this tour, as far as the ghost part goes, we've got a great rapport. It just so happens to turn out he's a big pizza fan as well, like the rest of the world. So that does make it nice and easy. The two of us can kind of sit down and talk about these things, and we both sort of know exactly where we're coming from. But from there, it's a matter of, I work with Fair Harbor as my system. They work with Peak. So now we're looking at two completely different systems. How's that all going to play out or so? Mike from American Ghost Walks, he went ahead and made me a profile. I can now log in and see on their back end how many tickets have sold, what the tickets look like, what our mutual customers are going to be seeing. There was the issue, obviously, that you have to figure out, all right, well, where are we selling them? So we chose one company to do the sales. October tour tickets, it's a no-brainer. Go for it, Ghost Tours. That's where people are looking, right? And then there's the revenue sharing. We got to figure out. All right, so how much are we making per ticket? How much of that has to go towards the purchase of the food that we're feeding them, and then what can we share between the rest that's left over? Now it's just information from both of us. So there's a little bit of like revenue sharing situation we got to figure out. If I'm a 1099 or something like that, sort of a vendor that works alongside them. But it was pretty simple to iron that most of that out and figure it all out from there.
Awesome. John, thank you so much for sharing. Love the concept of a ghost pizza tour in Chicago. Obviously, I love it. If anyone has a question, we got time for one question for Jonathan here, and then we're going to move on and chat with Jusep a little more about some of the corporate group stuff. But anything from anyone attending, anything for Jonathan, either in the chat, you can ask a question or come off mute and ask it. Otherwise, everyone likes to watch. Everyone's watching and listening. It's like the Super Bowl, Jonathan.
I'm monitoring the chat right now. See what we got here. Can I ask myself
Jonathan,
a question?
If anyone wants to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you, John?
Oh, very easy to find me. Just it's the name. It's all in the name. ChicagoPizzaTours.com. Find us on Instagram at Chicago Pizza Tours as well. And thanks for giving me a few minutes to kind of talk about what we do.
Appreciate it so much, John. Hoping you inspired everyone else here to start thinking about how else they can team up in their town. Maybe there's something. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jonathan. We're going to move on to Giuseppe. And we're moving on from we're still sticking in this realm of targeting locals, which is one of the things I like. Jonathan's story, what he's doing with teaming up with a local, offering out this cool experience, isn't really focused as much on tourists as it is on capturing some of that local market that he's already a part of. And Giuseppe on the corporate group side, a lot of that shift as well, that it's not as much of, hey, I'm a tour operator, I just work with tourists, but it's, hey, I'm a tour operator, I provide experiences. And there's so many ways to open up those experiences, provide more. And Giuseppe, I'd love to hear a little bit about what you found going down this corporate groups route so far. Where were you to start on the idea of going after corporate groups? And then where have you ended up now after kind of going after them and working on it for a little bit?
So pretty much when it comes to corporate tours, for the better part of when I started back in 2016, I just basically accommodated anybody who just found me. I never solicited. And for pretty much the better part of the last 7 years, up until UpLevel and I started having conversations, all of my corporate tours were non-solicited. They found me, and the volume that I was getting was enough. And anything more than that, I probably would not have been able to handle. So I would say that I, on average, probably host 3 to 5 corporate tours, but I had a small team. But as my team grew, and more importantly, I guess when Joe and I first talked about maybe working together to see if I can grow my corporate tours, I wasn't ready to handle an influx. And so that's kind of dealing with how do we create a back channel and support system and a foundation that can automate as much as possible without me having to build an entire team of human resources to get involved. And because I'm kind of ready at this next stage to be able to get to the local market and to grow the corporate business side of things, because it really only accounts for about 15 to 20% of my gross revenue. And I'd like to get it to about 80.
What do you have to change? We talk about growing this as a new revenue stream. What did you have to change, Giuseppe, to start offering these corporate experiences versus just the public tours you're offering?
I think the biggest change had to be figuring out who my target audience is. And I think the exercise that we worked on to try to find who the person that we want to speak to is, I think we called ours Hannah.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of figuring out how the messaging and all of the branding that we want to make sure gets in front of them speaks to a way that they can't miss out on what we're doing because of the uniqueness, and more importantly, the worry that we can take away from people by organizing this for them. And pretty much our job is to make the organizers' job, make them look great doing it. But I've never really had to, so I had no idea from scratch how to market to this group, because I've never had to. So it's kind of like a reset and kind of being able to get educated from the start. But I didn't want to do it on my own, hence reaching out to Joe and say, "Hey, I'm ready. I don't know what to do though."
Yeah, let's get on that one because you made the comment that when you were kind of starting this, you weren't really ready for an influx. You weren't really ready for more corporate groups yet. What made you say, okay, I'm going to start going after corporate groups now, even though I'm not ready for corporate groups?
Well, the big part of it is that can I bring someone in to basically help me and be someone that can actually take the lead on it? And I didn't have anybody in mind until probably about a year ago. And now, when I had that set and the person was willing and committed to joining the team, then all of a sudden, game changed because I didn't have the capacity or the attention needed to make sure that this runs smooth and well and managed well by somebody besides me.
What was what was that first thing you needed to do to get that ball rolling then? Was it lining up that person? You wanted to have someone in place to make sure the work of extra groups didn't fall on you, but let's get someone internally is going to be able to handle that extra work as it came in. Is that kind of was that the mindset?
That was the mindset because I thought that if we're going to go down this road, I need someone who's completely dedicated to it, and that's their priority. And I found someone that fit the bill, and she's been on the team for now 6 weeks, and she's still ramping up because ramping up any new staff, especially when it's the admin and technical sides, they're drinking from a fire hose, and so don't want to kill them too quickly. And that's why we started as early as we did, because I really wanted to focus to make sure that we're running on all cylinders by next year's spring so that we have a full year of someone who's completely ramped up and ready to kind of take in the solicitations. We've been working with UpLevel to make sure that our newsletters and our email campaigns have a lot of focus on getting people to get onto corporate tours, reach out to us for the next, holiday party or team event. And now that that ball is starting to roll, and technically there's two people that are working on this, myself and Sandra. And for the time being, that's going to be the case until I feel comfortable that I can hand this over to her, which I'm aiming for next year, March.
That's the
But
dream.
all of this was preemptive planning, making sure that I had all the cornerstones ready before I committed to Joe to say, let's do this, let's go, let's get everything set up to make it seamless for when we start soliciting and start marketing to people. There is everything ready for a lot of the automated part of it to be set in stone so that we can be able to kind of run this with only really just one person.
What was the hardest part about adapting the business to now take on this corporate revenue stream?
For me, it was just getting the mindset out of tourists and really kind of focusing on the local market, which I've not been doing very well. And that's a bit of an advantage because over 90% of the guests that come on my public tours are not from Toronto. And so I have this huge kind of runway to be able to kind of market to the local audience and to leverage those who've already been on the tour that are local and even give better options to my corporate groups I have hosted in the past. And when I want to get them back on, I have a system in place that can handle it.
Where where can things go now? We've got it set up. You've got these things in place. You've brought someone in. They're 6 weeks trained. What is your vision for the future of how this business then grows around corporate groups going forward for you?
Well, I think that solidifying the partner restaurants and locations that they are prepared to handle a larger volume of people than the normal, most of my corporate tours kind of hover between 15 and 30. But now I want to be able to offer groups as large as 100 plus, right? And so that requires a whole slew of logistics. So partnering with the right bus company, uh, figuring out who the right people are to contact when I'm ready to kind of book it with the venues or whatever restaurants. But I think the foundation that we laid, where I'm working with, software and websites like Proposify, Canva, Active Campaign, a lot of that was built from the ground up with UpLevel. And so I wasn't guessing. I basically said to Joe, "You're the pro. I'll say yes to anything you tell me to do, and just get me ready when we're there." And so he was the one that kind of put all the gears into place so that now that it's running, there's a nice flow from start to finish once we get an inquiry, and how we take care of that person right until post event. And I did not have any of that. It was all email. Everything was email, back and forth with no tracking. Didn't even track revenue. But now that I have Active Campaign involved, I can track all of that, figure out what my success rate is, because I never did that either. If they didn't call back, I just didn't follow up because I didn't need to, because I had enough coming in that was comfortable. But I'm not in the place of just being comfortable anymore. I'm ready to kind of grow. And I think it has more to do with the fact that I think we're in for a tough couple of years economically, globally. Tourism might take a dip. And if it doesn't, great. If it does, I'm ready. But I think that just preempting where things are going was a necessity for me to expand and look in different avenues that I can generate more revenue. And corporate was probably the lowest hanging fruit to address.
I'm so glad you saw the light, Giuseppe. I agree with you. I agree with you completely. Higher profit margins, more repeatable business, everything we preach about why we love this.
Yep. And probably the biggest asset thus far is the fact that I raised the prices of my tours. And I didn't know the benefit until this month on what that means, because even if I put a promotion for my public tours, I don't have to give that to the corporate tours. So I have a 15% promotion for public tours. I'm not giving that to my corporate groups. And none of them have flinched. So I'm having way better margins on my corporate tours than I ever could have imagined, because my cost of food and all of that is under 25% for the price of the ticket. So I'm making 75% margins on corporate tours per person. So please and thank you. Cha-ching, cha-ching, keep it coming.
On that note, I do want to share. We have been working with Giuseppe, and one of the things that we also offer, we have a website solution that we're able to help tours roll out. And with it, it's focused a little more around getting more corporate groups, having a page specifically for corporate groups on that site, as well as optimizing your public tours for it as well. And Giuseppe, I just want to get your I want to get your reaction here. I have 4 stats for you about your new website.
Okay.
Overall, users are up 47% from the same period in 2023. Organic search users are up 76% from the same period in 2023. Private event page users are up 300% from the same period. And this last stat is kind of a cheat. This last one's cheating a little bit, because your new team outings page, users are up 900% from the previous 2-week period on the Fair Harbor site. But you didn't have a corporate groups page in 2023. We didn't have one that existed. So this was just checking over a 2-week period. It's a little bit smaller on the data set. But how do you feel just up when you hear some of those numbers of how things are trending here?
Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Let's keep it rolling, baby. Let's keep it rolling.
All right, so we got one question, then we're gonna wrap this up, get everyone out of here on time. Midgie is asking, are you looking at doing tours for 100 plus or creating unique experiences that include food? And Midgie, if you want to expand on that question a little bit here, I know you're not shy, so if you want to come off mute here and just ask that question yourself as well.
Oh, no, I'm not shy. I'm awkward, but I'm not shy. Yeah, so one of the things that I've been looking at and I've been doing is with large groups of 100 plus people. I don't offer the food tour because it's just logistically it's doable, but it's a lot of work. I offer like experiences. I partner now, given where I live, it's a little easier, but I partner with other companies that do like whale watching or sport fishing or other things like that, and then take them to a really cool venue for lunch, dinner, whatever. Or I throw them a hellacious party, and I just purchased a mobile kitchen, and so I bring the party to them. So I was just curious, is like, have you looked beyond the food tour to just a full, well-rounded experience? And you could partner with, just like John is doing with pizzas and the ghost tours, which seriously, I want pizza so bad now. Um, and it's like 10 o'clock here. But you know, it's it's an opportunity that expands your ability to offer really unique corporate experiences. And that might be something, you know, that with those bigger groups, it's a lot easier logistically, and you make a crap ton of money doing it, to be honest. So just a thought. That's why I was wondering, like, I could do it, but I don't like doing it. I'd rather do something like that's, I get them all together in one place, feed them all, and boom, they're done.
And just that you do have a cool corporate. If you want to sum it up in about 30 seconds, we're going to end here in about a minute 40. If you want to give me a 30-second about the food hall that you're using as part of these corporate groups, I'd love for you to share a little bit about that.
So before I reached out to Joe, I already was in the works of doing a partnership with a food hall in Toronto. It's the first Canadian chef-inspired food hall with 12 different vendors. And they fit my brand because I'm all about showcasing international food. I have a prefix menu from every vendor in the food hall to create a tasting menu. And they have a capacity of up to 1,000 people, but they can cordon off sections for as small as 20. And so that's the offering we're going to give, because I needed an offering that didn't require outside walking in our winter months. And so that was already in the pipe before I even reached out to Joe and said, I'm ready. Because I needed to be able to scale the number from the limitations, like you, Midgie, mentioned about walking food tours. 50 people is a nightmare. So that's why I created this new partnership to capture the groups that are 50 plus.
Love it, Jusep. Love it. Thank you for sharing. Everyone, thank you for being here. Thanks for being part of this UpLevel live show. More articles and everything on our website. So if you want more feedback on any of this or some help getting started with corporate groups, reach out, let us know. More people like Jusep and Jonathan taking advantage of this opportunity. You should be too, especially if you're a food tour. Oh, it's such a good opportunity right now. Okay, friends, thank you so much. We'll see you again soon. Take care, everyone.